Hello, my name is Daryl Love, and I'm the Associate Vice President of Career Services and Professional Development at Kentucky State University. And I'm also a member of the Fayette County School Board here in Lexington, Kentucky. It is a pleasure for me to be a part of the Real Men Read program and join many other men who are actually reading books, much like I'm going to do with you, in order to basically help you in terms of inspiring you in your desire and your love for reading. So the book that I have to read with you today is called I, Matthew Henson, Polar Explorer. And it is a wonderful story that talks about the life of Matthew Henson. And it talks about his desire to become an explorer. It talks about some of his highs and some of his lows. And as you have an opportunity to read with me, I think you will find that it's such a fascinating story. And it's a story that keeps you in suspense from the time we turn the first page to the last. So if you have your books, please turn with me and we will begin on page 2. And you should see a picture here with Mr. Henson on the deck of a ship. And our story starts. I did not walk 40 miles from the nation's capital to Baltimore's busy harbor to eye ships from a dock. Though just 13, I yearned for the taste of the adventures that I had heard old sailors speak of, to explore the 7 seas and somehow find my calling. I did not start as a cabin boy, climb the ranks of able-bodied seamen, sail 5 continents, and learn trades in foreign tongues to be shunned by white crews who thought blacks were not seaworthy. I did not chart this course to drift in humdrum jobs ashore. My dreams had sails. And now we see him, he's like in a tailor type of shop. He says, I did not take a job as a stock boy at a men's store to work my way up the ladder to clerk. I yearned for wind at my back. So when a customer naval officer said he needed a manservant for an expedition to Nicaragua to map a canal, I signed on without a second thought. And now we see him, and he's actually like in a jungle area. He says, I did not sail the tropics just to launder shirts and cook meals. I meant to prove myself as an explorer. That chance came when a chainman fell ill and I joined the survey crew. In the swampy jungle, I learned Perry as well as I knew the ropes, and he leaned on me like his right hand. I had not earned Perry's trust to part ways and turn my back on adventure. Next trip, he says, you'll have to work like 3 men. On the kite with 5 others, we sailed to Greenland, and I alone learned Inuit, the Eskimo language, and built our base camp while Perry charted a journey to the North Pole. To go there, I would have to work like a horse. So sometimes you notice sometimes with different individuals with different languages, there's sometimes an opportunity to learn that particular language, and it helps you, of course, with communication. So now we see him, and not only has he started to communicate, but he's actually working alongside the Eskimos there as well. I did not befriend the Eskimos, learn to build a sled, handle a dog team, track and hunt on ice, and kill a polar bear to let an Eskimo legend freeze me with fear. Kakoya, the devil of the north, guards the ice caps, the Eskimos warned. He is not real, I told them. After they danced and drummed, I played the accordion and sang hymns. Okay. Now, I did not sail north with Perry again and again through the frozen sea, charting the ice cap, inching towards the pole where no man had stood, for frostbite to halt our mission. When ice took most of Perry's toes, I carried him back alive. Kakoya on our heels, howling in the wind. And so this says a lot about Mr. Henson there as well, because his friends hurt. Rather than leave him, he's carrying him back to safety. He says, we had not braved the frozen wilderness, gone miles beyond the last village, only to starve because new snow hit our store of food. We tracked hare and musk ox until the hunting was poor and we were skin and bones. Then we ate our dog team, all but one. Kikoya churned in our guts. We had not survived the frigid cold and broke some and killed others to let our dream melt when hope and cash ran low. While others gave up, we returned to the polar region and, guided by Eskimos, fetched a prize from the ice cap, a meteor which Perry sold to raise funds. And now I did not explore the Arctic to sit still between voyages while Perry planned. And he seems to be a little bit now just discouraged. He says, I became a railroad porter and explored my own land. In the South, I met hate face to face. And in New York, I met Lucy, who loved me, though I didn't have a cent. I promised her the pole as a wedding gift. Before we could marry, I had to set sail. So a little bit of despair, but now he meets Lucy and he's happy. So now Perry and I had not sailed the Roosevelt, a new ship built to cut through icy seas, only to set out on foot from our base camp and have our path blocked by melted ice. But turn back we did, tricked by Kikoya again. Back home, we both knew our next trip would be our last. I now had a wife, and we were no longer young men. Perry had not handpicked 7 men and timed our trip so I had the 6-month winter night to build sleds, train dog handlers, and enlist Eskimo guides for our last try to fail. In the long daylight of spring, 24 men and 130 dogs struck out like teams on a relay, pushing across the ice to store food and supplies for the team that would go further. We had not faced sudden storms, frozen peaks and ridges, and shifting iceberg castles to let leads and patches of open water swallow us. With a 1/4 ton of supplies and an often lame Perry on a sled, we crossed 20 miles in as many hours. Snow pricking our faces, fingers burning with coals. We built igloos each night and dared Kikoya to stop us. I had not stuck by Perry for 2 decades, sharing the same goal, only to reach a fork when our journey was on its last leg. Task completed. Team after relay team returned to base camp. In the end, Perry picked me to go all the way, vowing he could not make it without me. Kikoya would be no match for us. We had not trudged on, rushing across the ice pack with 4 Eskimos to let faulty instruments steer us wrong. I used dread reckoning to guide us north, sludging from the cold. Perry sent me ahead. Miles later, I stopped the sled, wiped my frozen lashes, and scanned the vast sheets of ice. I was so close. Shortly, Perry arrived. We broke through the thin ice. He did a sounding, lowering 9,000 feet of rope into the ocean. 6 men, 1 black, 1 white, 4 Eskimos had reached the North Pole. We had found what we hunted. I said in Inuit. A camera froze our fate in time, and we had not come for photos. We came to plant our flag, and Kikoya was nowhere in sight. So they achieved success. So what do we take away from this story is that if you have a dream and you work really hard to the dream, sometimes you may have some false starts, but never give up. Always remember to keep pushing towards your dream, and also be willing to help people along the way. So we noticed when Perry found that, first of all, had some situations where he had lost some of his toes. We saw that Mr. Henson carried him, and they also completed this journey together. So always remember, it's always good to work together as teams. Never give up on your dreams, and continue always to work hard. And I've enjoyed spending this time with you, and I wish you all the best in your next reading as well. Thank you for joining me.